Hello, the doctor will see you now.
I am Dr. Memory, and this is Nurse Uberclocken. Today's topic is electrostatic discharge, or ESD, and how to prevent ESD from damaging your memory. Recently, we had a patient with a computer malady. He said he received computer memory ready for transplant and performed home surgery. The donor memory was rejected and died. His third unsuccessful transplant. We checked compatibility of the memory with the computer. The memory was a match. We tracked down the issue to poor ESD prevention before and during the memory transplant. The patient was actually killing his memory with ESD during each transplant.
Clear! So, doctor, what causes ESD?
ESD is the exchange of electrons, or charge, between one material and another. When two materials are of different charge potential and are close enough to exchange electrons, the materials will automatically try to balance their charges, or bring the amount of charges to the same potential. The most common household method of producing static charges is the triboelectric effect. A charge may be induced by pulling apart or rubbing two unlike materials. When walking across a carpet, a charge can build. Touching a metal object, such as a doorknob, allows a transfer of electrons to occur rapidly, causing a spark. This effect is due to the human body being able to release a charge quickly into the metal. The human body is constantly charging and discharging. The smallest amount of ESD noticeable to the human body is around 3,000 volts.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of voltage.
It is a lot of voltage, but a small amount of current, or amperage. 3,000 volts is a typical small spark that occurs between the hand and a doorknob. Today's electronic devices can be sensitive to less than 50 volts. Nurse, can you give some historic examples of ESD?
Yes, doctor. Lightning is probably the earliest recorded example of ESD. Around the 15th century in Europe, black powder magazines became common in fortresses and would frequently detonate unexpectedly. Little is recorded on the causes of these accidental explosions, but now we know ESD is what would ignite the powder. As you can imagine, those that experienced the explosions didn't live long enough to document what happened. During the 19th century, mass production of newspapers and books created a need for large amounts of paper. ESD was an ever-present hazard in paper mills where friction from high-speed machines would cause sparks and ignite the paper. In the 1940s through early 1960s, during the era of electronics built with vacuum tubes, ESD didn't play a role, as the tubes were not very sensitive to ESD. However, with the introduction of integrated circuits, or microchips, ESD became a major player for potential damage to electronic devices. NASA's Apollo guidance system and the military missile system were some of the first to use microchips. Obviously, failure due to ESD in these situations would be disastrous.
Thank you, Nurse.
So, doctor, how do we immunize our electronic devices from ESD?
In electronic manufacturing areas, surfaces are covered with grounded mats designed to drain off static charges. Smocks, woven with carbon filaments to block or disperse static, cover personnel clothes. This prevents static buildup from certain materials. When touching electronic devices, personnel wear grounded wrist straps to reduce static charge.
But doctor, what can our patient do to prevent ESD and keep his memory from flatlining? What if he doesn't have grounding straps or an ESD smock when transplanting components? What do you prescribe for this patient at home?
There are some easy safeguards to protect your electronic devices from ESD prior to transplanting new components. Keep the component inside the static bag or box until you are ready to transplant. Wear a short-sleeved cotton shirt. This helps avoid buildup of static from wool, silk, or synthetic fabric touching your skin.
Disconnect the power supply. to avoid self-induced shock therapy. If your computer is on a carpet, place it on a clean workbench or tabletop. Tabletops are generally less prone to generate static. Do not touch the electronic components inside the case except for the power supply.
If you have an ESD wrist strap, attach one end to the power supply and the other end to your wrist. If you don't have a wrist strap, touching the power supply will discharge static on your skin. Touch the power supply frequently when installing electronic devices to keep static at a minimum.
At this point, the computer is prepped and ready for transplant. You may now remove the component from its protective bag or box and begin the surgery.
Module, stat.
Yes, doctor.
When handling the new component, only touch it by the edges of the card and do not touch any contact fingers. Though not related to ESD, touching of the contact fingers leaves oil residue resulting in signal degradation and potential oxidation of the contacts. If the module has a heat shield on it, you may touch it by the heat shield instead. If you have a module that just has bare chips, do not touch the bare chips. Just only touch it by the outside of the module.
When finished transplanting the new component, close the computer, reconnect the power, turn the computer on, and verify the computer has not rejected the memory transplant.
After counseling, our patient went back to his home and, using proper ESD precautions, successfully transplanted his new memory.
Check back for more Dr. Memory and Nurse Uberclocken, as we have many more health issues to examine.